I would say 98% of the people that I know, people like friends, family members, people I've talked to, all deal with some form of abandonment issue. 98% of them, or emotional neglect. So if you're one of those people as well, you deal with abandonment issues. You grew up a single parent home. One of your parents left. One of your guardians or role models pretty much left your life. Or if you had certain parents who weren't emotionally, who didn't emotionally fulfill your needs pretty much as a kid, then stay tuned because we're going to be diving into these topics in this video.
You've come to fight as three men. And three men you are. What will you do without freedom?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Godly Potential YouTube channel. In this video, we're talking about a very important topic. Two topics, actually. They pretty much go hand in hand. The topic of abandonment. Do you have abandonment issues? As well as emotional neglect. Okay? I lumped these two together because I discovered them both together. But also, I look at emotional neglect as being abandoned emotionally. Okay? So, I'd rather put them together because the process in which I gain dominion over these are the same. So, why not combine them? Okay? But before I go into that, I want to throw out a disclaimer. It seems as though I have to put out this disclaimer every time I make a popular self-help video or personal development video, because it could potentially get a lot of views, right? A lot of traction. So let's put out the disclaimer. I'm not a therapist, okay? I'm not a counselor. I'm a life coach, okay? Also, disclaimer. Look at the name of this channel again. It is called Godly Potential, meaning the things talked about on this channel will 99% of the time have a spiritual twist to it, okay? It will have, the solution will have some spiritual things sprinkled into it, okay? So if you're not into that, if you think it's all woo-woo, you think it's a bunch of BS, you think it's just new age hippie shit, then this is not the video for you. But if you understand that we're all spiritual beings having a human experience, right, and you just been looking everywhere, you can't find any answers, then this is a video for you. Disclaimer done, okay? Now let's get into it. Abandonment. Physical abandonment, emotional abandonment, okay, or emotional neglect. Why am I talking about this video? What gives me the right? Well, it all started a couple months ago for me. I had a reading done. It's an ancestral reading, pretty much telling me about the gifts I inherited from my ancestors, the type of people my ancestors were, the abilities, as well as the darker aspects of my ancestors. Basically, what needs to be healed, what has been passed on to generations, pretty much generational curses or generational traumas that I've inherited as well, that I'm trying to work through, okay? That I am working through, that I will gain dominion over, okay? So during this reading, she told me that through my lineage, there's always been a abandonment issues coming from the wounded feminine, okay? Now hearing this at first, I was so confused. I'm like, what? I don't even know where to begin. I'm not a woman. I don't fucking know. But then I looked at it, and I looked in my family history and whatnot. The people who are still here or recently transitioned, all the women, pretty much single mothers. It's one thing I noticed. Then it started to click. I'm like, oh, they probably all deal with abandonment issues, either from their father or their husband, or if they weren't married, their boyfriend, their mate, or what have you. And I could see how that keeps getting passed on and passed on and passed on. As well as my parents, they separated, they split up, right? So, looking into that, okay, my parents just split up. Did they create abandonment in me? That's what abandonment issues within me. That's the question I had to ponder, and I realized that yes, it did. But like most dudes I know, especially dudes, you ask them like, especially if their dad wasn't really there at all, they be like, man, fuck him. I don't care about him. I don't give a shit. But deep down, when that shit happened, when you was a little boy, a little girl, whatever, that affected that little kid, and it still is affecting you. Okay. Same thing with me. I wasn't on the spectrum of fuck him because I still have a great relationship with my dad. But when it happened, that age group, I was in the fifth grade, right? That fifth grade little boy, I don't remember what age group, but he dealt with it harshly. Right? He's still affected by it. So that's why I'm talking about this, okay? As well as the emotional part, because we'll get to that in a moment. But one of the first things that I've learned or that I've done to help me with this is to you got to get to the root of it, right? And you also got to break it down to into bite-sized pieces, okay? So it can be more easily digestible and conquerable, right? You want to gain dominion over them. So let's do that. So before I get into the process, I want to read some things from healthline.com. It's pretty much my point of reference for this video, pretty much explaining some of the symptoms of these things, how it can manifest in childhood as well as in adulthood, and some of the ways in which it can cause these issues, okay? So, first thing, what causes abandonment issues? This is strictly abandonment, not emotional abandonment. Okay, what causes abandonment issues? Death. Okay, so let's say you lost a parent, right? Let's say a parent died, they transitioned, or you lost a spouse. I guess it could apply there too. Abuse, physical, sexual, as well as other abuse, right? Getting abused as a kid or as an adult can give that abandonment issues because you feel like you're not getting their love, right? As well as protection or whatnot. Poverty, if basic needs aren't met, this can lead to a scarcity mindset. This may lead to fears that emotional resources such as love, attention, and friendship are likewise limited. So that create abandonment issues. Relationship loss, divorce, death, infidelity, they all happen. For some individuals, the end of a relationship is too painful. It may lead to lingering fears. Okay, that's in a relationship. But as well as witnessing your parents separate. Okay, that's some of the ways, or some of the causes of abandonment. Okay, what are some of the ways that it can manifest? So within adults, it can manifest in cycling through relationships, sabotaging relationships, clinging to unhealthy relationships, or needing constant reassurance of pretty much they're not going to leave you. Those are ways it can manifest in adults. Ways it manifests in children are separation anxiety, panic, as well as a fear of being alone. Okay. Now, looking at my childhood, I would agree that I went through separation anxiety, maybe panic, and I believe is a fear of being alone as well. Because your parents, when you're growing up, when you're young, they're like your gods, right? They're your idols, okay? They're your superheroes, they're your kings and queens, right? So losing that person, it creates a separation anxiety, right? You want them to come back. You might even blame yourself. Okay, that's as a kid. So it definitely took on some of those things. Some of the symptoms as an adult. It was cycling through relationships, sabotaging relationships, clinging to unhealthy relationships, needing constant reassurance. I would say clinging to unhealthy relationships. I did that to a certain degree, like being with certain women who clearly, like, after it's over, hindsight, I'm like, why the fuck, you know? I also believe that it also manifests in okay, no, that's the next thing. That's emotional, but yeah. So I would say I did that, as well as sabotaging certain relationships. Like, I found out a chick who's interested in me. I could find something to sabotage it, right? I can find something that's like, nah, I don't like that, blah 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 blah, right? Because that fear that eventually I will become abandoned. Okay, so those are some of the symptoms of abandonment issues. Now let's look at emotional neglect. How does emotional neglect affect children? It can result in depression, anxiety, apathy, failure to thrive, hyperactivity, aggression, developmental delays, low self esteem, substance misuse, withdrawing from friends and activities, appearing uncaring or indifferent, shunning emotional closeness and intimacy. I definitely took on some of those. So I became extremely depressed. I got super fat. I was 170 pounds in the sixth grade or the seventh grade, one of them. That's big. Like, got depressed, started binging or whatever. Um, Failure to thrive. I feel like I took on that because I was depressed, right? I didn't want to go out and thrive and go out the shit. No, I didn't want to be a conqueror. No. Aggression. I became aggressive. Developed an anger problem. Low self-esteem. Definitely. If you're dealing with low self-esteem, don't look. I'll just upload a video, check it out, or I will upload it after this one. Okay. Substance misuse. Me personally, I didn't deal with this, but my brothers, they went through this. They experienced this. Okay. Withdrawing from friends and family. Definitely. There was a time when I used to be out with everybody else in the neighborhood all the time. Then I just stopped going outside. I just pretty much withdrew myself from friends and activities. I stayed in the house, watched Food Network all day. That's what I did throughout summer. I had one friend whose house I would go over. Yeah. Yeah. So, how does this affect adults? PTSD, depression, emotional unavailability, increasing likelihood for an eating disorder, shunning intimacy, feeling deeply personally flawed, feeling empty, poor self-discipline, guilt and shame, anger and aggressive behaviors, difficulty trusting others or relying upon everyone else. Definitely took on some of these. I would say I don't think I experienced depression in my adulthood, so no. I would say shunning intimacy. I think I was afraid of it. Feeling deeply personally flawed. Definitely experienced that. Um, Poor self discipline. I experienced that in certain aspects. Um, Difficulty trusting others or relying upon anyone else. Definitely didn't trust anybody. Okay, and I think I developed that as a survival mechanism. Right now, what is it? How can it manifest? Pretty much, it says childhood neglect or childhood emotional neglect occurs when a child's parents or parents fail to respond adequately to their child's emotional needs. Emotional neglect is not necessarily childhood emotional abuse. Abuse is often intentional. It's a purposeful choice to act in a way that is harmful, while emotional neglect can be an intentional disregard for a child's feelings. It can also be failure to act or notice a child's emotional needs. Parents who emotionally neglect their children may still provide care and necessities. They just miss out on the mishandle. They just miss out on or mishandle this one key area of support. Okay. Yeah, that's how it happens basically. Now, like I said, it said abuse is different from neglect. Abuse is intentional. Neglect is oftentimes it can be intentional, but oftentimes it's just they just don't notice it. I mean, for me, I think it's because I had three other siblings. I wasn't the youngest. I had the younger brother and younger sister. They got more attention. It was three boys, one girl. The girl got more of the attention, right? From my mom after my dad left or whatever. And the type of person that she was, okay? She's a more personal, private person. So I really don't expect that, okay? So I feel like that's how it happened. But let's get into what to do or how I combat this, how I gain dominion over these abandonment and physical and emotional abandonment issues, okay? So the first thing is I made a list of what my dad represented, okay? What did he represent? I did him because he's the one that left. So what does he represent for me? Well, he represented leadership. Okay. So when he left, we were without a leader. Okay. I mean, we looked up to our mom as well, but he was in that position. Okay. So we expected him to lead, and he was no longer there. So we didn't have guidance. For me, I just went into my shell. For my brothers, they were pretty much led by their peers. Basically, they all led each other. Okay. He also represented communication because he was vocal. He's a Gemini, right? He speaks what's on his mind. When you're around somebody who's extroverted like that, who speaks a lot, they open up that space for you to bring out your extroverted side, right? So when he left, it took that extroverted part of me with him, basically, because that space wasn't created. Okay, not to say that I wasn't comfortable speaking to my mom, but she's not as talkative as him. Okay, so there weren't that many long conversations, I guess you can say. What else did it represent? Structure. Okay, just being that masculine figure, right? That masculine role model. Took that part away. So he used to put us in sports, mainly basketball. He was our coach. So when he left, stopped playing sports. I got out of shape. I was eating whatever, just lounging around, not doing anything, because he was also adamant about us getting outside, us doing this, going here, being active pretty much. So when he left, the structure was gone. He's expressive, more fun, you can say. He planned all the vacations, I believe. Not too entirely sure, but he was expressive and more fun. So when he left, it almost took like a sense of joy, right? That left as well. And that ability to express freely, that kind of left. He represented being emotionally affectionate. He was the more affectionate one out of my mom and dad, right? That's how it's gonna be, like yin and yang, right? One's gonna have this trait, the other one's gonna have a different trait. They're gonna balance each other out. So when he left, he took that emotional, that affection with him, right? Which led to, like I said, emotional neglect. He also represented security. So when they left, that's when I developed low self-esteem. I would say anxiety, stuff like that. So with that being gone, like I said, you want to write down what that person represents. Okay, and look at each one of those. So to detour a little bit, like I said, my mom, she really wasn't that affectionate. And it makes sense because in the reading I had, he said it was a wound in feminine because her mom wasn't like that. And her mom wasn't like that to them, and so on and so on and so forth. So it's just pretty much tradition as well as ancestral patterns and traumas and stuff being played out. But it's basically up to me because I have a certain level of sensitivity and an awareness and certain modalities and people who can help me with this. It's up to me to change it, right? Change the narrative. We're changing ancestral patterns here, okay? And if you're watching this video, it's probably your job to do the same, okay? Take it seriously. Don't take it lightly. That's one thing my ancestors did relate to me. My first ever time hearing from my ancestors, it was take it serious, okay? You're representing the name. Fuck wearing a jersey with somebody else's name. Put the team on your back, all right? Put your family, put that name on your back and rock that with pride, okay? So, write down the things that represents you. So that's what I wrote down. So I can look at it and see that's how it manifested that I was missing those things, okay? So, where do we go from there? I have a few steps that I wrote out on what we can do, or what I do to fix this. So, first thing is, if you feel like this is your fault that it happened, get rid of that notion because it can't possibly be your fault, okay? Especially if you're a child when this happened. Just get rid of that. It was not your fault. Accept that, know that, understand that it is not your fault. You can make an adult do something such as that, okay? It's the first thing. Or rather, the second thing. Alright, so here's what I offer to you. What you want to do is go back into your past. Time travel back using the mechanism of your mind, okay? The mind doesn't know the difference between what's visualized, what's made up, and what's here in front of you that's real, okay? And you have the ability to affect your timeline forwards or backwards. It's easier to do it backwards because you can recall that memory, okay? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go back into our past. Put yourself in that present moment when all this went down. The moment you can recall, okay? Sit down in meditation, visualize, put yourself back in that place. See your little self whenever it happened. For me, that when I was in the 5th grade, go back to that time, okay? Find yourself when he's alone or when she's alone, and go to yourself and say, this is not your fault. Look, I know this doesn't make sense now, and you probably don't want to hear this, but everything's going to be okay. You're going to make it. You're going to survive. And this will all make sense in the future. Like I said, this doesn't make sense now, but trust me. I am you from the future. Look, I'm telling you, you turn out fine. You turn out fine. Trust me. That's what you need to say to your past self, to your childhood self, to that kid part of you, okay? Travel down your timeline and do that, okay? The next thing is, I invite you to check out the video I made entitled How to Overcome Your Traumas or How to Deal with Your Traumas, something along those lines, okay? I'll be sure to throw up a card or something, okay? Check out the video, follow the process in there. It's going to help you gain dominion over it, okay? That's the next thing. Another thing is, when it comes with you, let's say, like I mentioned, you may be on that spectrum of fuck this parent, I don't care about them, blah blah blah, blah yada yada yada. How could they? I don't care what she's talking about. No, blah blah blah. Okay, if you're on that spectrum, understand that we're all spiritual beings with certain assignments. Okay, part of that assignment they had and experience they had was to take that path. Okay, go there. Part of your assignment was to experience that, to experience this abandonment. Why? Because you're gonna figure it out, and you're gonna help others who deal with this. Or, in my case, you may be similar. Your family's lineage has been attracting that. Okay, and it's up to you to change the narrative, to eradicate it. Okay. Also, understand that your parents, they are just your sponsors here. Okay? When you incarnated, you chose those two people to come together and make you, because it's going to give you certain experience, certain circumstances. Okay? Bring you up in a certain manner, in a certain environment. Understand that those people do not have the same spiritual path as you, most likely. Okay? They were just your sponsors. Okay? There's a thing in the military when you come to a new base, right? You have a sponsor there. It's not your supervisor, it's not who you're going to be working with necessarily. It's simply someone who's going to sponsor you on the base, give you a tour around pretty much until you're able to do shit on your own. We have that in the military. It's the same shit here. Your parents are just your sponsors, okay? Understand that, grasp that concept. It's going to give you a certain level of freedom, okay? Last thing is, we all attract into our lives the circumstances that are going to cause us to grow the most. Okay? Because if this abandonment thing did not happen, you wouldn't have reached this point of evolution without that experience. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay? These events are taking place, or rather, these events are placing you into the position that you need to be in order for you to spiritually evolve and develop. If that was not the case, you would have not incarnated here with those parents during this timeline. Okay? They say you're living out different lives as we speak because time doesn't exist. Okay? Time is illusion. Okay? So if that's the case and you're experiencing different lives throughout different timelines, your consciousness just happens to be in this one right here, right now. Your awareness is in this one right here, right now. So if that's true, then why did you choose to incarnate whenever you were born? Why didn't you go to the 1800s? Okay? Why didn't you go to the 3000s, right? Why didn't you go to a different part of the world? Because you wanted to experience certain things. And that's what's happening. So don't take the shit personal. It's all for your evolution and growth and expansion. Okay? That's what's happening. So, make a list of what that person represented to you. Go back in your timeline, talk to your younger self. Reassure them that everything's going to be okay. Know that it's not your fault. Okay? Know that we're all spiritual beings with specific or certain assignments. Okay? Know that your parents are just your sponsors. They all have their certain missions. Okay? Know that this is all part of your spiritual growth and evolution. Look at the video uploaded about traumas. Now this works for just regular abandonment as well as emotional neglect. Okay? Understand, remember how these things can manifest. Having your awareness on it can give you the ability to change it. Change begins with awareness, okay? If you want to lose weight, you put your mind on losing weight, you put your mind on eating healthy and working out. You don't wait until you look in the mirror and see you're out of shape to then put your mind on losing weight, okay? That's too late. So put your mind on how these things manifest, catch yourself when you're doing them, and then realize that the reason why you're doing it is because of this abandonment issues. Begin to place your awareness on these things, and then you will be able to gain dominion over it. The two main things, really, the two action steps you can do are, like I said, travel back into your timeline, okay? Go back into the past, grab your younger self, because what's going on here in this memory in your timeline, okay? There's a certain level of energy in there. And by you doing that, you're reassuring, you're empowering your younger self. And going watching the video about the traumas, it takes you through a process of how to release that energy that's locked into that memory and release it. Okay? So that is what I do. And that is what I offer to you. That is what I invite you to do. But also remember the other things, that it's all a part of your spiritual evolution and growth. Hope this video helps. Hope it was structured enough for you to grasp. If this video was helpful, be sure to thumbs it up. Share this video, because like I said, 98% of the people I know, maybe higher, deal with this to a certain level, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. So share this video, okay? Subscribe if you haven't. If you got any suggestions, you got any comments, leave in the comment section or send me an email at mygollypotential@gmail.com. Okay? Subscribe if you haven't. But that's all. Until next time, I'm out.
You've come to fight as free men. And free men you are. What will you do without freedom?